You will not believe what Young Sook An survived in October of 2022.
911, what are you reporting?
Imagine trying to get a divorce from your husband, and there's already a protective order in place, and yet he shows up at your house on a Sunday. Young told the kids, "You go buy some ice cream. Your dad and I are going to talk." And they were going to talk about divorce and money. He wasn't having it. And long story short, he buried her alive in the woods. And she lay in that grave for over 12 hours is what the probable cause affidavit says, and actually survived. She said she was wriggling around so that she could try her very best to get some air to breathe, even though there was dirt all over her face. Her eyes had been taped shut. Her mouth had been taped. Her hands were bound behind her back. That 911 call, by the way, came from her Apple Watch when she was still in the home being attacked by this man. Okay? And then he had put her in his vehicle and taken her out to the woods and buried her alive. What an incredible survival story. I'm going to give you all the details very quickly. This is the short version of a live stream that we just recently had. If you want to check out the live stream, in it we did map time. We read through the entire probable cause affidavit and we listened to many clips and saw many things. So if you are interested in that, I will link it below for you. But I just didn't want you to miss the story in case you pressed for time, because what this woman did was so incredibly brave. What a strong person. And the guy on the right, on April 22nd of 2024, he was sentenced to, unfortunately, it doesn't sound very long, but 13 years in prison. He pleaded guilty, so it's like a plea deal. And so he got 13 years in prison. Okay, this all happened in Lacey, Washington. Husband and wife going through a divorce, 2 kids aged 11 and 20. Welcome back to another episode of Grizzly True Crime. My name is Chae, and let's hear what happened here.
Mom, what are you reporting? Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? What's going on there? Okay, I'm going to get help started to you. Hold on for me for just a second. Do you know the address that you're at, if I said it? Are you at? Hold on, I'm going to get help started for you, okay?
So you just heard the 911 call that Young Sook An had made. And isn't it just so sad to think that she was in her home after being beaten and bound with her hands behind her back and everything, and she still managed to wriggle and get that Apple Watch to call 911 and send out emergency notifications. Already there, you can just tell that this woman had such strong survival instincts. So Chae An and Young Sook were a couple going through a divorce due to his alleged domestic abuse. The police had apparently been there many times at the house. Now, the divorce was filed in the summer of 2022. They have 2 children who in 2022 were aged 20 and 11. Chae was a highly decorated military intelligence warrant officer for over 30 years when he was granted disability for the department or from the Department of Veteran Affairs for injuries and illnesses related to his service. His attorney says that his client suffers from PTSD and blames his actions on being over-medicated and undertreated. Now, during the live stream, someone had said that they're also a vet, and they said that is a thing, that people are over-medicated and undertreated, especially for PTSD. And I completely understand that, and I respect that. However, it's never an excuse to murder someone, right? We can all agree that, okay, he was going through some things, but what he chose to do with that is just like, I can't even say it's not appropriate. It's not right. It is so sinister. What he chose to do here was abuse his wife for many years, apparently, and then bury her alive? Oh, no, no, no. So his attorney had said that, of course, when he was initially arraigned in October of 2022, Chae An was homeless, isolated from friends and family, allegedly suffering from symptoms of PTSD, and telling his estranged wife that he would rather want her dead than to let her have any of his retirement money. So for him, this was all a financial motive, really. He was like, I have nothing left to lose, basically. But what about your kids? You really want to kill their mom? And he said he'd rather have her dead than her touch any of his retirement money. I mean, wow. So now on Sunday, October 16th of 2022, Chae visited the home of his estranged wife on October 16th of 2022 when she had just gotten back from church. When Young An saw him, she then sent her children to go and buy ice cream at Goodwill and Baskin Robbins to prevent them from being exposed to what she knew would likely be another fight. You know, she knew the drill. It was years of abuse. And so she just said to the kids, you go along now. And they probably also read the room like, okay, we'll go buy some ice cream. Now, he was not supposed to be there due to a no-contact order. The police had allegedly been to the home multiple times, and Young An had previously obtained a protective order against him, which was later rescinded by the courts. And I've read in some places, I'm trying to find out more about that, but they said that she had actually gone to the courts to have that rescinded because the speculation is that he was threatening her to do so. And that does happen when there is a coercive controller, you know, really directing everything and threatening, and one would feel so scared that you just eventually do exactly what they say. She said that he often told her that he would end her, that he would kill her, and she just didn't believe that he ever would. And of course, as we know from true crime, you know, the lesson there applies that, yeah, if someone's saying that and they've got this type of a track record, there's a high likelihood they will. They're very, very dangerous, so those threats must be taken very seriously. The police were dispatched to the home on this day for an unknown trouble case. And now you know, because you've heard the call, it's from that 911 call. They were like, what the hell is going on here? It's just this muffled sound, and we can't really make out what's going on, but they were able to look at cell phone tower records and, you know, where this call was coming from and go to that address and check it out. When they got there, they found the house was empty, and the garage door was open, and the front door was unlocked, and there were signs of a disturbance. Now, you heard a dog barking in the background of that 911 call. I wonder if the dog just stayed in the house, or, you know, if he locked the dog somewhere. It's something that doesn't really matter based on the case, but I always wonder about details like that. Like, where was the dog? Is the dog okay? So when the kids returned to the home, you know, from walking away and getting some ice cream, they actually drove away. The daughter, of course, was 20 years old, and she took the car keys and took her mom's car and went to go buy ice cream. So when the kids returned home, they told the police that their dad would visit once a week to do his laundry, and they noticed that his minivan was in the driveway when they left to buy ice cream, but that was gone by the time that they got back. There was no sign of either parent, of course, and based on the history of calls to the home, the police put out an attempt to locate flyer. So you can see the flyer over there. They were looking for that vehicle. They were asking neighbors if they had any surveillance footage, and of course they did. So I'm going to show you that now, where you could see him literally pulling into the garage. That's where he'd already dragged her down the stairs and left her on the floor as he pulled his car into the garage, loaded her into the vehicle, and then drove out to a remote area, dug a grave, not pre-dug as in there. He was digging a grave and threw her in it. So I think it's also thankfully that he didn't pre-dig a grave. It was quite an impulsive plan, that the grave wasn't, you know, it's terrible. This is a terrible story. There's no silver lining here in this case when you think of the grave. I'm saying it was 6 foot by 3 foot and 19 inches deep. My point is, if he had pre-dug the grave, maybe it would have been even deeper and even more difficult to survive. You know what I mean? So he was definitely not in his right state of mind doing this and quickly digging a hole, throwing it in it, and putting a heavy tree on top, like covering her with dirt and putting a heavy tree on top of her. So let's just go quickly back to the house where this all happened. So the police had heard this call, you know. So how did this unfold? So Young had actually asked him to leave, and she went upstairs to her bedroom to change. She obviously believed that he would leave. If she said, just get out of here. Well, he didn't. That day, he snapped. He didn't. He walked upstairs. He followed her, and he punched her in the head multiple times. He threw her to the ground. He stabbed her and bound her with duct tape. She survived so much. He also taped her eyes. While still in the house, she had somehow managed to make this 911 call from her Apple Watch and sent out an emergency notification to her daughter and a friend. And that friend actually did arrive at the house, which reminds me almost of, when Chris Watts underestimated Shanann's friend, like immediately coming to the house when she knew something was wrong. This friend was there and saying like, wait, what? I'm very worried about my friend because she's going through a divorce and there's been domestic violence and all of that. So thankfully, though, that alert went out because the police were able to very quickly get on this case and try to figure out, well, where are they? And they, as you saw with the flyer, quickly figured out this was now an abduction, So they were looking for that vehicle. They were looking for those people. When Chae, however, noticed the Apple Watch, he ripped her watch off, smashed it with a hammer, and also smashed her wrists, just for extra measure. He then backed his vehicle into the garage and loaded her into the trunk after dragging her down the stairs. She begged him for mercy and told him to think of their children, to which he replied, and it's very chilling, "I don't need anything. Today, I'm going to kill you." He drove her to a remote area in the woods about 8 miles away, dug a hole, and buried her alive. Oh my goodness. She said she could hear him walking around the hole and kind of over her. So she was actually trying to remain still and very quiet for a long time. She said she believed she was in there for a couple of hours. The police say it's about 12 hours. I mean, that's unbelievable. She wriggled around trying to keep breathing, trying to keep dirt off her face. She eventually managed to get herself out of the restraints after a few hours, they say, and ran through the forest for 20 to 30 minutes before finding a home to ask for help. On October 17th at approximately 9 minutes to 1 in the morning, she banged on the doors of a home and the residents called 911. She was so scared. I don't know if they invited her in or she just said, you know what, you know what I mean? They don't say those details, but they said she was so traumatized and so scared, she just stayed outside and hid behind a shed. So that tells me she was terrified and just like, I'm just going to stay in the dark and stay hidden, keep my eyes peeled because this guy's somewhere out there in the woods. When she had gotten out of that grave, apparently she noticed the first thing she saw was his van was close by. And she could see a light was on in the van. And there was like steam on the windows, so she knew he was in it. Later, the van was found elsewhere the next day. And he had driven, someone reported a suspicious vehicle, and that's how the police found him and arrested him. I don't think he thought that she's going to survive this. He was probably thinking, oh, it's like he's just going to stay here for, a good 12 hours and just believe that she had died, which is just so sinister. And then take a drive. He was apparently contemplating ending his own life. He wanted to hang himself and drown himself. That's what his defense attorney said. But in the end, he was found in his vehicle and was arrested. So thankfully, the residents that she had, the home she'd gone to bang on the door, thankfully they answered the door because that's pretty late, right? And they were able to then call 911. We've seen in some cases where unfortunately people are so frightened by what they're seeing and try to process that they don't call 911, which is also shocking. I hope that everyone watching this will call 911 if somebody needs help, right? Depending on where you live. Of course, here I live in Switzerland, so the number to call here is actually 112. But you know that? Yes. So Young was hiding behind the shed, fearful, extremely distressed. Chae's van was in the area. He told police he wanted to hang or drown himself. He was then arrested at 8 p.m. on October 17th, 2022, after cops received his call about a suspicious vehicle located a few miles away on the Chehalis Western Trail. And he was initially charged with attempted first-degree murder, first-degree kidnapping, first-degree assault, and felony harassment, threat to kill, all of which include a domestic violence enhancement, and was held on no bond at the Thurston County Correctional Facility. Now, the thing is, the minute that Young saw the police, they said that they were like shining their flashlights. They saw a dark figure hiding there behind the shed. When she saw them and realized it's police, she ran to them and screamed and said, "Help me. My husband is trying to kill me. And he's out there still in the woods somewhere." That must have been so scary. She also said she couldn't breathe. Can they please help her? Because she still had duct tape around her neck. And so they used their shearers to cut that off. And they gave her some water. They took her to a hospital to be treated. Thankfully with no life-threatening injuries, which with a guy with so much military experience, she said that he had stabbed her multiple times. it's odd. One has to think what type of, I'm glad that he didn't stab her to the point where it was life-threatening injuries. You know what I mean? But it's a bit odd for someone with experience like that to I don't know how to word this, because we don't want him to be successful in killing her. I'm just thinking for a moment how odd it is that he so impulsively dug this grave, and in a way that the victim was able to escape. And he had beaten her and stabbed her and things, but again, she was able to survive that. And he must have been so shocked, though, when he saw that she actually did survive. So she said, when he was arraigned, please, no bail. I'm really afraid for my life. I just want to emphasize that I fear him so much, and he will kill me again if he's out, which I'll say, as I said in the live stream, that if you think of that, of course, it's with a translator, and she wasn't in court. That was a victim's advocate reading that statement. But just to think, if she was saying he will kill me again if he's out, not try to kill me again, it's as if she felt that she was killed that day, that she died that day, I'm sure part of her did. It's devastating. Now, on April 22nd of 2024, he pleaded guilty So on April 22nd of 2024, he was sentenced. It was in March of 2024 that he pleaded guilty to second-degree attempted murder. So you can see that based on all the charges he was facing and what he was eventually pleading guilty to, that's what we would call a plea deal. So his attorneys obviously made some kind of a deal. Based on that, the judge sentenced him to the max of what he was facing then, which was Judge Mary Sue Wilson, and she gave him a 165 months in prison sentence, which is it's actually just under 14 years. So it's 13 years and a bit, and then 36 months of community custody. He may not contact his wife ever again. He may not have a firearm ever again. The judge also gave him, there's no contact order with Young An, like forever. He said then at his sentencing on October 16th of 2022 in the County of Thurston, Washington, with the intent to cause the death of my wife, Young Sook An, I took a substantial step towards the commission of the offense when I kidnapped her from our home, took her to the woods, assaulted her, and placed her bound in a hole and covered her with branches. Before he was sentenced, he also said, I wish that I could go back and never enter that house that day and walk away. Which is kind of odd to say, because don't you wish that you didn't beat, stab, bind your wife, the mother of your children? Didn't you wish that maybe you didn't bury her alive? He's like, wish I didn't go to that house that day. It's not, the apology doesn't seem sincere at all. I don't think there's actually remorse there. I think he's very dangerous, and I hope that when he gets out, because it'll be before he's 70 years old, around 67, he's 54 now. Well, he's pretty fit. He's got a lot of military experience. He's very dangerous. So I hope that she will have a new name, a new location, and that he won't be able to find her. Now, he's serving his sentence in the Washington Department of Corrections at the date of this recording, which is at the end of April of 2024. He's already been transferred there. So that's where he is. That's where he's serving his sentence. Let's hope that he doesn't get let out early on good behavior or something, because we've seen that happen in cases too. Now, when he was sentenced, Young was actually in the courtroom, but she didn't want to be on camera. But she said, of course, still with the translator, after that day, I and my children's life was crushed. I have to live my life with emotional trauma and health issues for the rest of my life. Now, of course, that's understandable. It's devastating trauma. I'm sure she's got PTSD from this now. There must be so many nightmares, so many triggers as well. Like duct tape, rope, a vehicle, feeling trapped, dirt, forests, remote areas, just anything like that, right? To relive all of that must be so horrendous. But I really hope that she'll find moments of joy in her life, and that she can heal, and that she can really enjoy the time with her children, and maybe that she can even find love. I can't say love again, because I wouldn't say that how he treated her was love at all. Didn't sound like it ever was. It sounds really like a coercive controller, a domestic abuser who probably love-bombed the crap out of her in the beginning. And then once he had married her and had kids with her, then the mask comes off. We've seen so many cases like that. I really hope that she will be able to recover fully. The judge said, I'm sure there's no words that describe the physical suffering and the fear and anguish over 12 hours of thinking you might lose your life and you might never see your children again. You are strong and you are brave. I'm hopeful that today's hearing will be the close of this chapter and will make it possible to focus on your emotional and mental healing for yourself and your children. Oh my goodness. So, if you want to watch the full live stream where that's timestamped for you as well, where we went over the map time so you could see the area, you could see where their home is, where the location, the approximate location of the grave was, where the home is that she ran to, and where his car was approximated to be as well when they arrested him, then I will link that episode below for you. We also read through the entire probable cause affidavit, which has a few more interesting details than what I've read here on my presentation. Just wanted to bring you the story. It's an incredible story of survival, you know, that will to live, that fight. I really admire her for that. And I hope if any of us, and hope we never in any situation like this, but if we ever in a life-threatening situation, that we will fight like grizzlies should. You know what I mean? Like, fight for your life. You deserve to live, okay? Don't let anyone take that from you. And never try to never get taken to a second location, as we also learned from these cases, because that never ends up well. When I was younger, I was always thinking, like, what would I do if I got kidnapped? And you always think, you know, the default, if you ask most people who don't follow true crime, would be, okay, I'm just going to play along, you know, I'm going to comply. Then when I have a moment, I'm going to escape. But that never works. We know that from true crime. Never let them take you to a second location. That's just the most dangerous thing. So I hope that you enjoyed this episode. As terrible as the topic is, I'm just so glad it's a survival story for once, because there's so many terrible cases that we talk about all the time. Thank you so much. If you are brand new here, I hope you consider subscribing and becoming part of this fantastic community. I hope to see you in a live stream as well sometime soon, because it's predominantly what I do on my channel is go live. So I hope to see you there. We interact a lot, you know, we chat. It's very engaging, and it's my favorite thing to do here at Grizzly True Crime. Also check out my YouTube shorts and my community tab if you never have, because there's lots of updates that I share there with you as well. And if you have any questions, you know, if you want to learn a little bit about me, or you want to learn about, I don't know, if you want to get some merch, or you want to get notebooks, or learn about the books that I wrote, it's all on grizzlytruecrime.com. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again very soon. Stay safe.
I told him to think about our children, and he said, I don't need anything. Today, I'm going to kill you.
Speaking through an interpreter, the victim described how her husband, Chae An, ambushed her in her home, beat her, tied her up, then tried to bury her in a shallow grave in the woods.
He stabbed me several times with his knife on my chest, and then he buried me alive.
Roughly 12 hours later, she was able to free herself, the entire time thinking of getting back to her children alive. Surveillance video shows the moment she walked up to a home for help, the bindings still around her neck. But An's defense attorney painted a different picture of a military veteran, desperate, depressed, and suffering from PTSD, who snapped. With An then apologizing in court to his family and his children for his actions.
I love you guys all my heart. And you mean everything to me. You two are my most precious gift from the heaven.
Midway through his statement in court, his wife appeared to have an emotional reaction and had trouble breathing, with the proceedings stopped briefly so medics could check on her. But she remained in court as a judge sentenced An to 165 months for attempted murder.
I'm so sorry. I wish I could go back and never enter that house that day and walk away.